Hello, people. It always helps if you have a microphone. Um, I was on Tactical Rifleman's channel doing his live. Got on here early to do the banners. Hello, Scott. Welcome. What part of Texas? And so he was giving away a buck knife, and that's what I need is another knife. But anyhow, so I was listening to his channel and watching here. Couple of great things going on. Oops, boy, my hair needs. That's why I wear a hat. What do you think of my new? There we go. There's my new patch for my hat. 3 emojis only. The AIs is on. Okay. But anyhow, so my new hat, got the new patch, or this old hat with new patch. They also sent me a new hat. I did one video with this one, so ta-da. Okay. I did come up with a new book that will start and here in the very, very near future. So this is James Wesley Rawls. He's an MI officer. He was at Fort Huachuca, same time I was. And this is his book, How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It. Believe it or not, I was just looking through my, so I bought this book August 18th of 2013, 9 years old. But it's a great book. He also has a fantastic website, survivalblog.net. And here, let me I'll put that out in the notes at the end of this, survivalblog.net. Oh, okay. Fort Worth. So, yep, nutrient survival. And my father-in-law passed away up there in the hospital. What is it, King's Daughters, I think it is, in Fort Worth. And used to like to go up there. That was one of only 2 ponchos, delicatessens, Mexican delicatessens that was left in the U.S. The original one in El Paso, and then the new one when it got bought out, when Poncho sold it, and it became corporatized. And then the headquarters and one of the remaining 2 is on the corner of Interstate 35 West and Interstate 20. Southwest corner. So love that. But I grew up eating at Poncho's in El Paso, the original one. Okay. So that's the book. I'll have the link for it if you want to purchase it. Fantastic guy. Go to survivalblog.net. For those of you who are into nutrient survival, I would recommend there are 3 days left, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They've been giving away, on average, over $100 worth of food every day this month, to include weekends and holidays. And hello, my prepper journey. And so all you have to do is watch it for an hour, and they give a code at the end. You enter it. I haven't seen more than 500 people ever in there. So my prepper journey, hello. Van City, hello. Love those helicopter videos. Keep those coming. And but anyhow, so they've got a promotion going on right now that you can get for the rest of the month. You can get 20% off of any order that you make. So go to their website and get that code, and maybe you can win $100 or more worth of freeze-dried food. And that's going to be tomorrow at 5 o'clock Central Time. Jewish Redneck Prepper, Happy New Year. And okay. LG, welcome. Good to see you. Let me get into over here, and I'm going to count on my mods to welcome everybody for me, because I'm going to be focusing on the content here. We're trying to take care of the last 60 pages, because next week I'm going to be on vacation. It'll be the first vacation my wife and I have had since 1997. And then the weekend after that, I'm going to be on The Angry Prepper. He's going to be interviewing me on his show. So we won't have the Tuesday night book club for the next 2 weeks. But then we'll be coming back, and we'll begin this book on the second Tuesday in October. Okay, so let's get into the book that we are reviewing right now, which is Surviving the Economic Collapse, this one here by Fernando Ferfal, Aguirre. And he talks, the part we're talking about right now is financing and everything else in a post-apocalyptic world. And so, I'm missing a one there. On pages 182 and 183, says that you should have at least $100 to $200. Let me edit that so that it doesn't look so crazy. There we go. That'll look better. So he says that you should have between $100 to $200 cash available at all times. Other experts say you should probably have at least 1 month's worth of living expenses, possibly 2 months worth of living expenses available at all times. So, and remember, this is kind of an aside to what Aguirre is saying, is that about 7% of our total money supply is actually printed. That is, that it exists in either coin or paper form. The other 93% is all just electronic transactions, bank to bank. So it only exists in the ether world. So if there were a run on dollars at the bank tomorrow, 93% of the money will not be returned to the people who want it or need it or want anything like that. So just be aware of that. And if you can, try to keep cash available. One simple way that I do it is I have a bowl, and every day when I come home from wherever, I empty out all of my change and put it into the bowl, and then once a month I'll go change that money into bills, and then put the bills in the bank. Yeah, I'm not a bug out type of guy either. And so, I have a preference towards hunker down. And although I do have bug out bags, and the reason is because the Gerald tornado came right through here. As a matter of fact, it went right down the street behind us. And so, if that had really hit us, then we probably would have had to bug out. And so my bug out bags are kind of what we did in Europe. That was my wife's first experience with prepping. Was they had what they called NEO, non-combatant evacuation orders. So we were afraid that the Soviet Union and their 25 divisions might come across the Fulda Gap, the Hof Gap, and the Great and North German plains, and then we would have to evacuate all of our families. We were allowed to take them, but they had to have basically bug out bags and all their other stuff. So that's how my wife kind of realized that prepping was something more. Okay, good. Yep. Obviously, I like that name. Welcome. Did you really? Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I wish you could send that water here, because we're still in drought conditions, and so any water we can get here would be so appreciated. Let me get back into the banners here. So anyhow, he says, make sure you keep $100 to $200 at home. He also recommends having, because of what he went through in Argentina, he recommends having 20 to 30% of that in precious metals. Now, a little secret about precious metals, and the next one he's going to talk about gold. Let's go ahead and do that. So he recommends South African Krugerrands, American eagles, Canadian maple leafs, and Chinese pandas. I'll tell you my experience. The South African Krugerrands are only 80% gold. So you're not getting a full troy ounce of gold when you get those. And they have a little bit darker. They look a little bit darker, a little bit almost an olive drab color. I would say almost an orange color rather than gold. But they're very well known because when we first started doing gold coins after the prohibition, of course, Krugerrands were the ones that everybody became aware of, and that's so those were the first gold coins that were readily available back in the U.S. after the lifting of the sanctions. American eagles, the problem there is getting the right size. So, Right now, 1 ounce of gold, and the American Eagle is 0.99% pure. Now, if you get the Buffalo, the American Buffalo, that's 0.999 pure. But they're both 1 troy ounce of gold, and that's, we're talking $1,700. So that's going to be very difficult for you to buy a loaf of bread with. That's, I don't know who's going to be able to give you change for that. Canadian maple leafs are one of the most pure golds out there. They're 4.9s. The Chinese panda, be very, very careful. I bought a Chinese panda, won it on auction on eBay, and the price was so ridiculously low that I knew it had to be fake. The minute it came in, I took it to my gold and silver dealer here. I trade with him. I've been trading with him for almost 20 years. And I said, can you test this for me? And he tested, and he said, oh, yeah, this is just pure fake. He says, even the weight's off, so it's fake right off the bat. And so I would say make sure you're buying your any gold or silver that you get. Make sure you get it from a reputable builder or a reputable dealer. I would not buy anything off of eBay. I deal primarily either with Austin's Best Golden Coin, and then my secondary one would be Provident Metals. And the reason I do Provident Metals is because they give a military and retired military discounts. So, I kind of like that. Yes, and so chain link bracelets, necklaces, things like that. He does specify pretty much to stay away from diamonds and things like that, rubies. Those are very, very difficult to assay. Let me get up here. If I don't get these, then they get lost. Yes, absolutely true, and fantastic. And I would say that I prefer 1s, 5s, and 10s. I very seldom have 20s, but I do keep 1s, 5s, and 10s. And so but the problem there is it becomes very bulky. I also like constitutional silver, which is the 1964 and earlier coins. They're 90% silver. Now, the 1965, 1966 Kennedy half dollar is 40% silver. But, most people can recognize the mercury dimes and things like that. And that's every time I go to buy my silver or gold, I always pick up 5 mercury dimes. I probably got 20 or 30 rolls of mercury dimes. But yeah, and so the chain link necklaces and bracelets, but the thing is that you don't want to wear those. That's for sure after SHTF. EBT card. Mm-hmm. My fear with an EBT card is the same thing with buying Bitcoin or anything like that, is if we get hit with an EMT. And I think that an EMT is far more likely than an actual nuclear burst. Then anything that's electronic is gone. It's just lost. You aren't going to recover it. So Sacagawea, yes, Sacagawea is 0.39s or 0.999, and fantastic. I also got the mercury when it first came out. So. Good. Yeah, water's going to be critical for everything, anything and everything. I think that's going to be the most. And the other problem is going to be, sewage being splattered all over the place because of the low level of Florida. Yes, Uncle Al, you're absolutely right. There's lots of people that are willing to make a buck off of you, and they have no guilt around that whatsoever. So just like this Chinese company that ripped me off for that. Well, I knew it was fake the minute I won the auction for $25. You don't get a 1 ounce round of gold for $25 to include shipping. So that's great. That's a great way to start. I have about 10, and that's from long ago. So yeah, Krugerrands are a great start. I strongly recommend them. Let me see here. So the Sacagawea dollar, no, that's, so there's two, so you have to be careful. There's the Sacagawea coin, which was, I believe it was a 25 cent piece, but there's no silver in it. Then there's the Sacagawea gold coin, which does have 0.99% gold. And I think the most commons of those were 1/20th and 1/10th and 1/4 ounces. But I'm not an expert on that. So, whoever brought that up, if you would clarify that, I may have made him boo-boo there, but would appreciate it. Then he talks about black and gray markets, and he has the funny thing is that Fernando has the same thoughts about barter that I do. The chances that first we have to understand only 5%, if that much, of the U.S. is actually preparing for something to happen. So you're getting what you need, and then you say somebody convinces you, well, these are the 100 best things to invest in because they'll be great barter items. Well, question number one that I have is, what are the chances I'm going to run into somebody else who has prepared and has as an extra what I need and is willing to accept what I have to barter for what they have? And and he and I are kind of the same opinion, and he prefers to invest in what he thinks he's going to need and then go to markets rather than individual bartering. Although at the very end of these 60 pages, he's going to give us some tips around bartering. So he talks about recession-proof jobs on 192 and 193, and basically what we can do to earn a little bit of extra income in case the imminent depression occurs. So I got a warning here. We've got 2 new comments. Okay, so you have the 25-cent piece coins, and we can go into that list of jobs that he talks about on page 105. I'm sorry, it's not 105. It should be 165 or 95. So some of the jobs he recommends. Get my eyes here. A miniature transportation business, education, health, lending money, tourism. And as I was reading this, I was thinking about some of the things I've seen in second and third world countries, and I was thinking about the little tricycle type things, the bipeds or whatever they call them, that are used primarily in Asia, where they can give people rides in those. You can also transport things, and a reverse form of what do they call it, deal dash or whatever, because there's going to be a lot of people who won't be able to get out and about. And so if you can build up your credibility and let so that people know you're not going to be ripping them off, I'm sure there's quite a bit going to be made for you running errands if you have a bicycle or something like that during a post-SHTF environment. And let me get rid of these notices up here. So my prepping journey says that they're gold coins. Okay, that's great. And then exploit your potentials and abandoned job markets. And so he talks about the same thing there. Private security is probably going to be very, very important. Standing guard duty, and that's one of my biggest concerns. Is I've got the river close by. I've got a nice little wagon where I can take my 2 5-gallon jugs and go down and fill them up with water from the river and bring them back home. But who's going to protect my home while I'm gone? And who's going to protect me while I'm walking along with 10 gallons worth of water coming up a hill, from the riverbed from the river up the hill to the top of the hill where we live. And so, there's a lot of things where you're going to want to have security. So being a person who is capable of providing security, that can be something. In the books that we're reading on Thursday night, we'll have that meeting this coming Thursday where we're talking about, we're on book 4 in that. And but he's talking about recreating, and we'll get into that later in this book as well. They're recreating a credit system in their market, and so they say if you work for 8 hours or 12 hours, then we'll give you 3 meals for each member of your family and a place to live. And so you got to come up with some sort of a system like that, where you're taking care of the people, but you also have to find a way to vet them, because you don't want a totally unscrupulous person guarding you. When when you're the only one there, you got to sleep sometime, and if you can't trust your guards, you're going to have a terrible time. Yeah, so it appears that there's a lot of people saying, yeah, they're alone too, and so how do we establish that? Now is the time, and he does a portion there right before the end. I think it's the last 15, 20 pages, where he's talking about networking and making friends and how to create those relationships, so that you can vet a person before SHTF, so that you can count on them for after SHTF. And so let me see, leaving Southern California, heading to West Virginia. Well, one of the things you might want to do is prepper nurse, and then the number 1, prepper nurse 1. He just moved from New York to West Virginia, so he's got a fairly large channel. And what you might want to do, Shenanigans, is get in contact with him, follow him, and tell him you're moving to West Virginia, and see if he can give you any advice. If you go to his About tab on his channel, it will give you his email address. And so I would recommend that the two of you hook up, and he can probably give you some very, very good advice about moving to West Virginia, and maybe even getting in touch with people that think like you do in that particular area. I wish you were closer, Lori. We could. There's all kinds of things we could do to help each other. Well, and that's exactly right. And and one of the things I would be concerned with is like the overnight security. Probably you need to pay them a little bit more than the daytime, because it's so difficult to stay awake at night, and there's all kinds of things that it becomes difficult. Yes, it does become difficult with paying, and people feeling that they're being ripped off, or people feeling that they're being treated fairly and equally. So that's one of those barter things that you have to come up with and say, okay, here's what I'm willing to pay. What are you willing to do it for that? And if not, what is it that you want? Great. I'm glad you follow him. So it looks like we got a whole bunch of single people here that are out there all by themselves, and so let me see here. And we talked about the transportation. One of the things is, if you're pretty good later on, and one of the things I want us to be cautious of is we have all different kinds of scenarios. We have EMP scenarios, we have financial collapse scenarios, we have Civil War scenarios, we have hurricane scenarios like Florida is about ready to experience. There's all these different scenarios, and each one have different priorities. Within each scenario, there's an independent timeline. So, things that are important at the beginning may not be important at the end, or things that are not important at the beginning may become very important at the end. So you kind of have to take your look at, what is the immediate aftermath after whatever the event is. And then as it begins to rebuild into normalcy, what other things come into play. And so, I think one of the big problems we have as preppers is we get this one event in our mind. We pick out one time in that event, and then everything we do focuses on preparation for that one piece of time in that one event. And we don't take a look at the holistic view of, collapse, stabilization, and rebuilding, and then renormalizing. So, each one of those phases might have different priorities we have to be aware of. So, some of the things like education and being able to have the books and the capability to help with children and teaching them and educating them, and even teaching some adult skills. Some people don't know how to use a ferrocerium rod. Some people don't know how to cut and cure wood. Some people don't know how to field dress gut and skin meat to eat, or how to trap. So that kind of instruction, whether it be education or whether it be training, is going to be very critical. And so, what can you do now to become an expert so that you can sell those skills at some point in the future? He talks about health. He talks about tourism. Here, unless it's a really bad EMP or CME, with our solar system, we will have air conditioning. We'll probably have the only air conditioning in the neighborhood. So, we were going to set aside one room as a sick room. So if somebody's really, really sick from heat stroke or anything like that in the summer, we could bring one person in and put them kind of in a semi-hospital environment. But you even have to be very, very cautious with that. So let me see where we are in the comments. Polk County, Florida. Oh gosh, Lori, you're going to be right there where it's going to hit. I'll pray for you. Yeah, Van City Prepper's up on the board, almost on the northern border of the territory she's in, which is, I'm going to say miniature Arctic Circle. Yes, absolutely. And welcome, by the way, Butch Grace. Let me see here. Yeah, they don't take any space. And the other thing is, chances are, if you can become a specialist in something, you can become very, very important. That's like having a Jace medical kit, and with antibiotics. And then Dr. Alton's book on infectious diseases and antibiotics. If you have those two things, you could be very, very valuable to the group as a whole. But remember, anytime you have a skill, they have to keep you alive in order to get that skill. If you have property that is important to them, they don't have to keep you alive in order to take that property from you. So, you want to develop as much skill as you can rather than as much property. And that's how you make yourself valuable, so that they keep you alive. Hello, Prepper Book Club. And let me get here. So then he talks about also you can kind of sell some affordable luxuries, and people wanted cell phones, clothes, and jewelry. That in a terrible environment, that they're going to be, wanting something to make themselves feel special. And I would expand that a little bit. I'm not for having out tobacco, only because right now about 18% of the U.S. smokes. So that's you figure that's somewhere around 1 in 6, 1 in 7 people smoke. So you've automatically excluded over 80% of the population as a possible barter partner. But one thing that Fernando, if you follow him on his website or on his YouTube channel, he was talking about the number of people who smoked doubled when the financial collapse, because it was a way of reducing stress. So, so then those people who were just beginning to really wanted it, and it became very valuable. Same thing with alcohol. So those, I would consider both of those luxury items. He said, become knowledgeable in real estate and how to rent property. And, then he goes through a whole, almost a chapter's worth of information on how to rent property. And where is that? Uncle Al's got a very good point here. We need to sleep, and the more sleep you have, the more aware, the more physically fit you are, and everything else. So you can't sleep if you have to sleep with one eye open, and you don't have somebody taking care of your things for you, around you, that you can trust while you sleep. Yes, 20 gauge or 12. I have both. I have a Remington 870 and 12 gauge, and then I have a Mossberg 500 and 20 gauge. And actually the Remington has a shorter barrel than the Mossberg. So Just depends on what you want to do. Yes, there. I did a video on that a little while ago. There's a couple things you can do. So the Mr. Buddy series have butane powered heating systems that are safe, and if you tip them over, they automatically shut off. I call them Boy Scout stoves. People call them hobo stoves and other things. But you take a tuna can, cut cardboard so that it comes up just almost to the top of the tuna can. Fill that with a paraffin, and then you've got these little heaters. You can use it as a stove if you put it in a stern. It fits perfectly in a sterno stove. Metal heating, the pocket stove that the sterno has. You can build a fire outside, put stones or bricks in that, and then bring them inside, put them in a bucket, and set that on your oven door. That will keep radiant heat for a while. There's a fantastic product that's made by UCO, UCO, and you can get it on Amazon. And they have a 3-candle candelabra, and it's warm enough basically to where you can actually boil water. It has a base on top where you can put a pot on it and boil water. So there's all kinds of alternatives on how you can keep warm. Wool blankets is number one. Make sure you cover all your windows and make sure you seal all the doors and everything else so you're not losing any of your heat or anything else. Absolutely. Yeah, so David and I are talking about the same thing here. The Mr. Buddy heaters, I believe that's what you're talking about. Um, Yeah, I have heard that people have done the tents that have the rods where you don't have to pound everything into the ground, create that inside, let's say your living room, and then what it does is it contains that heat inside of that tent, so you can um, keep that a little bit warmer than the rest of the area. And hi, Goofy Ruffy. And let me see what we got here. Okay. Yeah, and Buck probably would not penetrate 2 layers of sheetrock, so that's probably pretty good. Okay, where are we here? Let me see. And so he's talking about real estate, picking your renters, smart things to do there, and everything else. And then he gets into bartering. So I just have here to read things that I have highlighted. So let me get my eyes back on and turn to page 204. So I'm just going to do some selected things here with bartering. He says survivalists spend endless hours discussing which products to stock specifically for post-SHTF barter. Tools, needles, candles, shoes, and sometimes the most ridiculous suggestions are considered the wisest investment. But after SHTF, this or that item will be worth its weight in gold. Well, not actually. Only gold is worth its weight in gold. So he talks a story about his aunt Margie, who used to knit sweaters, and so she figured they would be worth a lot. And Aunt Margie would be loaded by those standards. She has 2,400 euros worth of goods, right? She made $2,400 worth of sweaters that she could sell at the market during pre-SHTF time. But the problem was that she had no market for her product. The guy who liked one of her sweaters had scented candles to trade, but Aunt Margie, I'm sorry, wanted some of those good-looking eggs. Her husband Bob loves omelets, but the egg guy was looking for someone to fix his water heater, and he had no use for her nice sweaters or for the scented candles. And Margie already had plenty of scented candles. So you see the problem. It turned out that it was practically impossible to find someone who had something you wanted, who at the same time wanted exactly the goods that you had available for barter. So that's the problem with the barter system, is finding the person with whom you're going to barter, and being able to arrive at a decision of what you're going to trade with each other and for. So here's a secret. So I have a Mr. Buddy and I have a room size, Mr. Buddy, and you can get $10 off if you go to either Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop, and you have to order it online, but you get a reconditioned one for $10 cheaper than the new one, and they have the same guarantee. So you can get those at either Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop. If you want to pay full price and get a brand new one, of course, Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, Academy, Tractor Supply. I've never seen it at Walmart, but try those different things. Yes, and the propane bottles last about the one I have lasts about 8 or 9 hours. So you gotta decide when you're going to use it. That's why those other things become so important. The UCO candelier, the having rocks and putting it in on a bucket on your stove or on your oven door and things like that. Yes, you can get adapters, and as a matter of fact, I was at Bass Pro Shop just last week. I was looking at the adapters, and you can get them all the way. I mean, once you get the adapter, you can have any size bottle that you're running off of it, even up to 100 pound. So yeah, and then David Point makes a very good point. Anytime you're relying on anything, it's fueled, whether it be a Coleman cooking stove, whether it be a jet boil, anything's totally dependent upon fuel. Eventually that fuel will run out. So you got to be careful about that and have another means planned. And David says he has 3 20-pound tanks. So yeah, and I had 2 100-pound tanks. So, but those 100-pound tanks, I've got to get those traded out. And they are difficult to get out there if you don't have gas or anything else. Okay, so I read those two. Now it says read page 208. So he talks about ammo being a barter item within a certain circle of people that you can trust after the fall. And even if you do not end up trading or selling it, it is useful in itself to defend yourself and for hunting. The same can be said for canned and other long life shelf food. If you don't end up bartering or selling it, you can use it yourself. Crisis or not, you still have to eat, so it's a win-win situation. Other products such as tobacco, liquor, and women's makeup that are commonly associated with post-SHTF barter items should be considered more as gifts to buy favors more than as barter items, or at least that's how it was in Argentina. So then he talks about barter clubs, and some of his recommendations for barter clubs. See where we are in the comments here. Yeah, and now be careful with sterno cans. So I'm going to kind of go here. There are 2 different strengths of sterno cans. So there's the ones that just keep the food warm. So that's the food warming types. You're going to find those at Sam's and places like that, where it's going to keep the water warm. So you're keeping a water bath for let's say a serving line or something like that. So that's the lower temperature sterno cans. Then you have a higher temperature sterno cans that you're going to get in the camping area. Let's say at Walmart or one of the other camping stores. And that's designed to be a stove that's going to actually boil water and heat it at a higher temperature. So make sure you check which one of the 2 you're buying when you get them to make sure you're getting the one you want for the purpose that you need. Yes, that's true. Unfortunately, I just can't handle the consistency of oatmeal or grits or cream of wheat in my mouth. I guess if it came down to where that was the only thing left to eat, I'd probably eat it, but just prefer not to. So, and that's a very important point, is remember that you want to burn hardwoods and not softwoods. And, so you get those delivered. And I have 2 35-gallon trash cans out back filled with wood only because I'm afraid that the wood pile, we have all kinds of snakes right here. Neighbors are always complaining about snakes in the backyard. So I don't want to, the copperheads love wood piles, and I don't want them to have that. So I have them in trash cans, but those are going to run out too. You need to cure your wood 6 months minimum and preferably a year before you burn it, or you end up with too much creosote inside your chimney or fireplace or anything like that. Provident Prepper is my absolute favorite channel on YouTube. Kylene and Jonathan, they because of them, I'm a member of the American Civil Defense Association. Just love them. They are phenomenal, fantastic, and really level-headed when it comes to prepping. And their channel, I recommend it to everybody, is Provident Preppers. Provident Prepper is the name of their channel. I can eat oatmeal cookies. That doesn't bother me, but the mushy, liquidy, almost like snot, I can't eat. For indoors, you don't want to burn wood at all. So you're going to be fairly limited what you're going to be able to do indoors. So probably the best thing for you is going to be, I have a small hibachi type grill that I set on a metal. I have a metal shelving unit. Basically, it's professionally made, so you can cook your cast iron stove at waist high, so you don't have to bend over too far. And it's built just for that, to have fires. So I can put a little hibachi type stove on top of that as well, and then put charcoal inside of it and get that nice and warm. Then I can put some river stones or some bricks in there and get those warmed up and really nice and hot. Put them in a metal bucket, put that on the door to my oven, and that's going to provide residual heat probably for at least 4 to 6 hours. And that's what the Native Americans did. They actually dug a hole underneath where they were going to sleep, and they would warm up their rocks during the daytime, throw them in the ground, cover it with soil, and then sleep on top of that at night. Yeah, I got mine refurbished through Cabela's for $59, so that was $20 off of that. Yeah, they're tops. They're tops. Susan's Ramblings, hello. And so, well, and the hibachi is Japanese, so it's a small cast iron barbecue grilling thing. And now the way that they ventilate their houses, they do cook with charcoal or with wood inside the home, but it's in a very special room that is very well ventilated. So we don't have that in our modern homes here in the U.S. So be very, very careful with that. Yeah, and so Uncle Al points out very well. Now remember that there's a very small difference between the specific gravity of carbon monoxide and our breathable air. So I think it's only like 0.08 difference in specific gravity. So it's going to, wherever the leak is pretty much where it's going to stay. It's not going to sink or rise too much. But you do want to have a carbon monoxide detector anywhere that you're having any kind of an open flame in your home. As a matter of fact, Kylene, the latest video they just put out today, is talking about making sure you have a digital readout thermometer or a carbon monoxide detector, because you may be just below the threshold where the siren goes off and you don't know it, and that can be damaging over time. So you want to be able to see exactly how many carbon monoxide particles are coming out. So yeah, my CO detectors are both battery operated. Yeah, and I think since 1970, even most of the fireplaces are designed for gas systems and not for wood. So, you have to be careful about. Make sure you find out the type of fireplace you have, if you have a fireplace in your home, and what it's capable of doing. Uh, okay, let's get in here. Okay, so the art of haggling. So he has several different things. He says, first off, be ready to say no thanks and just walk away from the deal. And it's kind of the same way with when you're going to buy a car. If you act too interested in the object that you're wanting to buy, price is always going to go up. I grew up in El Paso, so we'd go across the Santa Fe Street Bridge into Juarez all the time, and you'd be surprised. They're going to offer you something for at that time it was 12 and a half pesos to the dollar. So they'd offer you something for 50 pesos, and you walk away, and you could get it for almost a quarter because they'd follow you to sell it to you. But if you acted interesting, then or interested in it, then of course, and you always had dollars instead of pesos, so the exchange rate was always in their favor as well. Play poor is the second thing he recommends. So if you dress up, and that's going to be one he's going to have down here later. You want to dress poor, you want to look poor, and then you want to say, well, I just don't have that much, and be able to walk away, and that's kind of what you need to do. Okay. My personal opinion, for what it's worth, and I don't have anything to back this up. If I were them, I would either focus on an attack using EMP, or I would focus on a cyber attack and take out the electrical distribution system and the gas distribution system. So those are the two things I would primarily target: electricity and gas. And without those two things, we are back to an 18th or 19th century U.S. Yeah, and my grandmother didn't have electricity, didn't have running water. She had an outhouse, and she burnt a kerosene lantern, for light and for heat. So, and then we had the nice thing about my grandmother's place, though, was she had an iron stove, a cast iron stove, and so we kept the fire going in there. And that cast iron stove was designed so that it would heat up the room. And so during the winter, when I went to visit her, we'd stay in the kitchen. Everybody slept in the kitchen. That's what they do in Russia, by the way. Is they have these humongous stoves and ovens, and so grandmother has the spot up on top of the oven because of the old age and arthritis and everything else. They wanted to keep her the warmest, and then everybody else has ledges around the stove, and that's where they sleep. Yes, so Ferfal has a channel, and I'll put the link for that in the show notes after we get done with this, probably the next day or two. So, but yeah, he does lives as well, which is really great. That's where he gets additional information from what he has in the books. Yeah, they blew the pipeline today. There are major leaks that are going on. So I think they said 3 major leaks with explosions in Nord Stream 1 and 1 in Nord Stream 2. So there is no natural gas coming out of Russia to Western Europe at all. Yes, and we had the oil radiators in our everywhere we lived in Germany. So we were there for 9 years, and but then that dehumidifies the room too when you just have those oil radiators, and so we had to make sure we added water to hydrate the air, or else you would really get dry. Okay, so the next one is offer half of what you're told. So they say, "Well, I'll sell it to you for $1," and you say, "No, I want to give you. Can I give you 50 cents?" And then you start your haggling from there. But always after their initial offer of a price, go down to 50% of what they have. Then he says, ask for discounts due to quantity. Now, I can't remember whether it was in this book or whether it was a live or a video of his that I saw. But he was talking about he went into a pawn shop and he saw this really expensive golf club, and it didn't have a price on it. And there was another golf club next to it, and it was like $110. And so he says, "Can I get this golf club cheaper?" And the guy says, "Well, I don't know." He says, "I'll tell you what." He says, "I'll give you $100. $90 for this one, and that one over there, it's not marked. I'll give you $10 for it." And so the guy agreed to that, and he says, "Okay, $100 for the two, $90 for the one, $20 discount, and then you get the other one for $10." He says, "You know what? I don't want this big one. I'm just going to take this $10 one." And so by doing that, he was able to get one for a really high-priced golf club for a very discounted price. I keep shuffling because those muscle pains that I've had. I went to the doctor and I got some cortisone shots, and that's not a pleasant experience. So I'm kind of trying to get that cortisone distributed throughout my body, or at least throughout my leg. And so he says, be picky and ask for discounts due to defects or malfunction. And so you can kind of pick apart what it is that you're buying and say, hey, I want a discount because of. And so that's kind of where we are, as far as what Ferfal talked about in the last 60 pages of his book. Let me catch up with chat and see where we are. Well, thank you. Obviously, I have some fantastic people. I have some fantastic moderators as well. So they do a very good job. I'm very proud of them and thank them quite much for it. I would recommend that you follow some of them or all of them, and we can help each other build our channels. That's also something else. The first Saturday of the month for our normal Grow Your Channel, I won't be here. I'll be on vacation, so we're going to only do it the third Saturday. We won't do it the first and third. Okay, 2 buddy heaters. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I hate cortisone shots too. That's and this one was just above the kneecap, and man, it's leaking still. They put so much in there, and then the other one I got was in the hand, and he stuck it right there because I broke this bone last Christmas, and it's crazy. The worst pain that I've ever experienced was when they had to draw arterial blood gases, and so they strap you into a chair. I mean, it's like an executioner's chair, like you're going to be electrocuted. They strap you in real good, and they strap your hand down, and they stick the needle in here to get to your artery. They don't stick it. You'd think they'd be in here, but they actually stick it in here, and that is got to be the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. Even more painful than a broken hip. Yeah, so if you have a Mr. Buddy and you want to get the adapter so you can go up to larger tanks, I recommend you go to Academy. Academy has them. Cabela's has them. Bass Pro Shop I know has them. So those are some very good places. You can also look probably online and order them maybe from Amazon or something like that. And but it's going to be far more economical and far better for you if you have the larger tanks than having to constantly swap out smaller tanks. It just gets cost prohibitive. I have the smaller tanks only because I'm afraid of, with all the stuff that I have stored, gasoline for the gas generator, propane, butane, ammunition, all those things either being flammable or explosive, that if something were to happen, the house were to catch on fire, they could negate my coverage, my insurance coverage. Insurers don't like for you to have too many flammables and explosive things in your house, and they'll look for any reason not to insure it. Yes, I do. And we'll talk about that later. His Amazing Grace. There's a guy down in Luling that I know is into it. Are you on the south side or the north side of San Antonio? And because I also know what's Black's what town is Black's barbecue in? Lufkin. And no, not Lufkin. It's just north of San Antonio. So I know somebody south of San Antonio. I know somebody north of San Antonio. And I think I know somebody in San Antonio. So we can get together on that later. I'm up just north of Austin. I passed out. So I'm a wimp. I don't like pain at all. Uh, oh wow. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but we know that it did provide a reason, a justifiable reason, and hopefully you got taken care of. Buy shirts. Okay, yeah, I think this one guy I know is buy shirts as well. He lives not far from Black's Barbecue. Uh, Hi, Hawaii Prepper, one of my favorites, and so I recommend that you all subscribe to her as well. She's got a very small following, especially compared to what she has to offer. We need to get her very well exposed. Ooh. I haven't heard anything negative. I don't know anybody personally that has given a very positive review on it. So I figure that the way our community is, if you heard something negative, you would hear it a lot. And I haven't heard that much negative about it. Okay, so are there any other questions about Fernando's book? Now, he does have another book, but it's written differently. And I'd say it's only going to add another 10% on top of what we're doing with this one, Surviving. He's got the street survival guide. And but it's about 90% repeat on this one. So I don't want to kind of have you spend money on a repeat of it. That's why we're going to go with James Wesley Rawls and in his book. And then he also has his website, survivalnet, survivalblog.net. And he gives away stuff all the time. He has a writers competition. He has a very good blog and channel. So I strongly recommend that he you follow him. I followed Wrangler Star. He seems like he had more problems with everything than a lot of people. Don't know if that's just he's like me. He's not mechanically inclined, or he really had that many negative experiences. Uh, oh yeah, I've heard that the cortisone in the back is far worse than what I went through today. My mother-in-law used to do that. She would wait until she could barely walk because of the pain before she'd go get them. So I can empathize with you there. Ooh, well, I hope I never have to have another surgery the rest of my life. I mean, it's too many, and that's the reason I used to be a professional speaker, and my voice is not the same as it was. And as a matter of fact, I quit teaching college because I just could not project to the back of the classroom because all the tubes had been stuck down my throat for anesthesia and everything else. And then I had a GERD, and so I had a Nissen fundoplication where they go down and they go in here, and then they take your esophagus and tie it in a knot around your stomach and everything else, so it limits the amount of food you can eat at any one time, and that, but it also keeps the acid from coming up. So and then they tied it too tight, and I couldn't swallow anything, so I had to go in and have it redone and loosened a little bit. And yeah, I don't want any more surgeries. No more surgeries. Not even a tooth. Not even if they knock me out for a tooth pull. And I wish that same for everybody else, that nobody has to undergo any kind of surgery. Okay, so the book we're going to be reading for the next one, and we're going to take a 2-week break, and I'll put this and I'll put the Amazon link for it in the comments down below. I think, or I may have already. But this is James Wesley Rawls, and it's "Survive the End of the World as We Know It." Okay. Um, are you talking about Ferfal, Uncle Al? I'm not following here. Read second book, not street smart. So can you kind of expand on that a little bit? Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that's what I put in the show notes. Yeah, and I like a lot of the things that he does. He has a 3-volume series, the Patriot series, and he's talking about the importance of having mercury dimes and revolvers versus automatics, and different things. And so he has a lot of really good. As a matter of fact, we may consider doing his trilogy after we finish reading Steve Smith's 5 books that we're reading now for the Fiction Book Club. But both of them are fantastic. Oh, okay. Thank you. I thought I did that, but I wasn't 100% sure. Yeah, the second book for Ferfal, I think, is Modern Street Survival Skills. I don't have it here. It's in my library, but there is a second book. Okay. Anything else that y'all would like to talk about or get done here? It's 9:01. So, wow. Thank you all for being here. What a great group of people. Anybody want to add anything, any comments to what we've been talking about, or any recommendations? So just remember, we'll have Thursday night. We'll be talking about the Stonemont series. And so we're going to be doing book 4, and that's An Appeal to Heaven. I have a friend who does professional engraving of these, and he does all kinds of things. And so I'm going to ask him to get me a T-shirt with An Appeal to Heaven, because in this book, what he does is each one of the areas has the name of that area underneath in the An Appeal to Heaven book. So I'm going to have An Appeal to Heaven, Texas or something like that, and for a T-shirt, and see if I can't get one of those for me and one for him. Yes, and he has very good channels. As a matter of fact, he just came out with a 20-minute one today, and I commented on it. He's got me pinned as a top comment on his on that channel today. Okay, Street Smart is the 3rd book. I didn't know that there were 3 books. So, what was the first or second in that list then? Okay, His Amazing Grace. Wow. You've been quiet. Either you've been quiet or you just got here, but thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for being here. Let's go into my normal closing. And so just remember that we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together. Be kind, polite, and nice to each other, respectful, because togetherness is the key. So in closing, we're going to say, this is Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. So with that, thank you all for being here. I will see you 2 weeks from tonight, same bat channel, same bat time. Please take care. And those of you in Florida, you've got my if you go to my channel and the about, you've got my email address. If there is anything we can do here in Texas to help you as you undergo what you're going through. We're going to give you prayers already, but if there's anything afterwards that we can do to help you and to get back to normalcy or sense of normalcy after the hurricane hits, please contact us and let us know what we can do to help you. So God bless everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.